Hi guys, my name's Abby, and if it's your first time watching me, welcome, and if you've watched my other videos, welcome back. I'm a life strategist and I help people overcome their limiting beliefs and self-doubts. I also create YouTube content encouraging people like you to become the best versions of yourself. So if that's something you're into, it's definitely worth subscribing to this channel. So I wanted to be transparent with you guys and open up a bit more about my experience with workplace bullying. Last year I made a video about about my diagnosis with Hodgkin's lymphoma, but I didn't really go into what caused my Hodgkin's lymphoma because I was still trying to mentally deal with what happened to me, and I just didn't feel comfortable yet to talk about my experience at work. So I have to fan myself down because it gets hot. And yeah, I just didn't really feel comfortable at the time to really talk about what caused my Hodgkin's lymphoma. So now I feel like I'm in a better place mentally, and I want to share my story with you guys because I want to raise awareness about workplace bullying, especially if I can help someone out there. Know you're not alone and know you are not going crazy, and I've been exactly where you once were if you're currently going through it. And I definitely encourage you to speak up and get help because I would hate for it to go into something serious. Like it could be alcohol abuse, it could be drugs, you could start self-harming yourself, or even worse, commit suicide. And I just don't think any job is worth taking your life. So it's definitely worth getting help. So let me explain what I did and my story. So I'm not going to mention any names, and I'm not going to mention the name of the company that I had previously worked for. I was a production coordinator and I worked in television, and I was so happy because I got my job like my third year in Paris, so like 2015. I was really happy to land my dream job as a production coordinator, and it was a CDI contract, and I was just like, yeah, really happy. And so you understand the levels. I was a production coordinator, then we had my manager, which was our production manager, and then we had our department manager, so she was also his manager and my manager, like the manager of the whole department, if that makes sense. And then we had another manager or CEO, and then we had our actual CEO. So those were the levels, and sadly, because of my job role, I had to work underneath my manager as he was the production manager. And just so you can get a bit of insight into his personality, he was extremely rude. He was a liar. He loved to be in control of situations, and when he felt like he wasn't in control, he would just flip. Like I used to wonder if he had like a split personality because I just never knew what would trigger him off. Like the littlest thing, whenever he felt like he wasn't in control, it was just crazy. He loved to tell you what to do, and it was kind of like his way of getting you to do something. So it always depended on what type of mood he was in. He would like come to my desk and he would either slam his laptop down by my desk, or he would place his laptop down politely, and he just wouldn't go anywhere until you've done exactly what he wanted you to do. He wasn't really, his personality was kind of like, for me, he was just constantly causing conflict. I know with our team sometimes there would be constant arguments, but I'm not sure how serious it was between them privately, because I know with me privately he was just absolutely horrible, but to the other managers and to everybody else, he was like a normal person. And so yeah, it was really hard. And the workplace bullying, well, he started to bully me pretty early on. So like a few weeks into my trial period, there was an incident, And at the time, I didn't know his personality. I didn't know that when he wants you to do something, you better just do it right away. I didn't know that. So he sent me an email. He wanted me to research a project. That morning, I was actually working on a production in the studio. So I sent an email back and I said, no problem. At the moment, I'm doing this, but in the afternoon, I will do the research. Well, the afternoon came, and let me tell you something. He walked into the studio and it was uncomfortable from the get-go. He was like, "What are you doing here?" And the person that was in the studio with me actually walked out. They didn't walk out because, I'll let you two talk. They walked out because his deliverance of "what are you doing here" was just so uncomfortable. So he walked out and left me and my manager in a soundproof studio, and he ripped me to pieces. He spoke to me like I was absolute shit. Like, I've never been spoken to so rudely in my life, especially in a work environment. And he said something to me and I thought it was a bit inappropriate. He said, "You need to respect me. You're on your trial period. You need to listen to what I say. You need to do as I say." And I just thought, how unprofessional to talk about my trial period. And first of all, how unprofessional to even speak to me like that. And I felt like him talking about my trial period, he was basically just waving my job at me like a carrot. Like, if you want your job, you need to do exactly as I say. And I didn't really know what to do about the situation because I was 25 years old. This was like my first ever salaried job. So I didn't want trouble because even though I knew how he had interacted with me, like spoken to me, was completely unacceptable, I didn't want to have problems. Like, I've just started working at the company, and I also felt like if I was to go to HR, they might see me as a troublemaker. Like, oh gosh, she's just started a few weeks in and she's already having problems with her manager. It's not like I'm having problems with a colleague, like a manager. It's a bit serious. So I didn't know how to handle the situation, so I literally just did nothing. I didn't take it any further. And of course, I wanted my job. So yeah, I was doing exactly what he wanted me to do just so I could keep the peace. And unfortunately, as time went by, 6 months into the job, it was my dream job now turned into my worst nightmare. I felt trapped and I wanted to leave, but two things. My French at the time wasn't that perfect, so I wasn't sure if I would find another job. And if I did find another job, naturally they're going to ask, well, why are you leaving? And it's kind of like, well, how do I explain that I'm leaving because I don't like my manager? It doesn't really look good. Plus, I'm like, maybe I should stay longer, like at least a year, because if I do go for another job, they're going to be like, well, you've only been here for a few months. They might assume that I'm just someone that job hops. So I thought, let me at least wait a year just so I look like I can, commit to something at least for a year. And so because of that, I knew as well I might need him for a reference. So that kind of made me want to keep the peace. And in general, I'm not an argumentative person. So I think he took advantage of that and would just belittle me whenever he could. And as time went on, my self-esteem and confidence just decreased. Like, it got worse and worse for me. And there were times where I did try to talk to him about his behavior, but he just didn't care. And he would say, you know what, I'm French, you're English, therefore it's cultural differences. And it was absolutely nothing to do with cultural differences. He was just straight up rude, period. And I remember there was an incident, actually. This is how rude he was. He was late, and so our team were in the studio, but as he was late, we've got work to do. He would always show up late, especially with me when we had planning meetings. He would just show up at like whatever time he wanted to, and I have work to do. So sometimes I'm not always at my desk because I'm in the studio, I'm sourcing props, and he'll be like, where are you? And it's like 2 hours later, you want to know where I am? How about you just have the courtesy to let me know you're going to be late or something like that? So anyway, yeah, he wanted everyone in the studio for a certain time, but no one had heard from him. It's like 40 minutes have gone by. Naturally, we've got work to do, so everyone dips out. He comes back to the studio, classic style, sends me a message, where are you? Where is everyone? So then I go back downstairs and he's just so rude. He claps his hands at me. And I'm in shock because it's like, who do you think you are, like, to clap your hands at me? Like, we're at work, like, we're not out on the streets. Like, this is a professional environment. I was just so upset and in shock, and it was just really awkward because it was just me and him in the studio. Then later my team had come in, and I don't know if they could sense the tension between us, but I was not happy at all, and I was kind of like shaken up. And it happened on a Friday, so I had the weekend to cool out. I sent him an email and I sent the subject heading like, please don't clap your hands at me. And I expressed in the email, like, you know, I'm not happy with how you speak to me, and it's not the first time that you've been rude with me. And he sent an email back. He changed the whole title of the email, and he basically tried to make out that I have issues following his authority, and he refused to accept his actions. And it was an awkward week because we had our UK team over and they were working with us. And I remember it's starting to look now like I'm not a team player because our team's going out to lunch and they're like, will you come with us? And it's a bit strange because I'm like, I don't feel comfortable being around this man. Like, he has zero respect for me. Why would I want to be around him? So I'm looking like I'm not a team player, but in theory I'm just trying to protect my peace, trying to just create distance between us until the issue is resolved. And that week I actually went to HR and I printed out the email and I explained to them what had happened, and they asked me were there any witnesses, and I said no. And that was the problem. Whenever he picked on me, there was never anybody around, and most of the time we had our planning meetings together, which I absolutely hated because they took place in his made up office. He was like in an edit suite that he would cover up so you couldn't even look in, plus it's soundproof, so that was his opportunity to talk to me like shit. It kind of did get better because the person who I'd spoken to in HR, I was like, you know, I don't feel comfortable being in his office because it's like soundproof. I would rather him come to my desk. So the HR person agreed, and from now on he had to interact with me at my desk, but it still didn't stop him from being rude with me. And there were many issues, like conflicts. So for example, with our team planning, it was just ridiculous. I would go to my team and I would say, okay, so what projects do you have to finish? And they could tell me like, oh, you know, to do this project, I need 1 whole day or I need 2 days to complete this project. Fair enough. Me and my manager, we would have our meeting about it, and I would say to him, okay, so this person said that they need 2 days or 1 day, and he'd be like, they don't need 1 day, they only need half a day. So then he would put in the planner half a day to do this project. Well, that same person who told me that they need 1 day to do the project would run to my manager and say, Abby's only given us half a day and I need 1 day. I told her I need 1 day. And then my manager would have the audacity to actually come to me and say, why have you only given them half a day? They need 1 day. And I thought I was going crazy because I'm like, you are the one that said to put half a day. In fact, you are the one that put half a day in the planning. So it's kind of like putting things on me that he didn't want to take responsibility for. And I remember just feeling trapped. Like, over time, I just didn't know what to do or who to turn to, who I could speak to. People knew that something was odd because people would laugh. In fact, when he would come to my desk, I would literally walk the other way. So people were aware that I was trying to avoid him, but I don't think they understood the real reason why. I'm literally trying to protect my peace. I don't want to argue. And as time went on, we got another manager, like a new department manager. And I'm writing a chapter in my book actually, and I call this SOS Too Late, because she was really fair. Again, there was an incident with my manager. He tried to basically treat me like I was his assistant, and I wasn't his assistant. I was a production coordinator, therefore I'm there to assist him when it's to do with the team and also assist the team. His own personal agendas were for him to deal with, and I don't think he kind of got that. So he wanted me to do something, and it was for his own personal agenda, and it was nothing to do with any projects involving our team. So I said, no, I've got work to do. I'm not going to stop my job to be your personal assistant. And he didn't like that. So he was like, let's go see our department manager. So we went to see our department manager, and I explained to her the situation. I told her, I'm not his assistant. This is not what I'm here to do. And she actually agreed with me. Like, she looked at him and said, she's right. And from there, I kind of wish she had joined the company sooner, because maybe he wouldn't have been the way that he was with me, as she was a person that was trying to find out like relationships between staff and management. But unfortunately, my disease had already manifested inside my body, and I remember thinking that I had IBS, because the moment I would go to work, I would have to run straight to the toilet because I was just so nervous. It was like my workplace had now become a danger environment, and I would go in, and the aim of the game for me was literally try to avoid my manager that day, because I knew if I saw him there was going to be some type of conflict. So it was very sad that I would spend my day like on eggshells trying to make sure that he's not around me, but at the same time I'm trying to keep the peace, because it's a bit strange if I'm always trying to avoid someone. So I just felt conflicted, like I just thought I was going crazy, because I'm trying to, in one sense, keep the peace, but how can I keep the peace when I'm working under someone who's absolutely horrible to me? I didn't really know how to express myself, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night just like just sweating and not being able to breathe and just panicking. And it's so sad because I spent like 39 hours at work, but it felt like I spent my whole life at work. The weekends I no longer looked forward to the weekends, because I'm just like, what's the point? I'm gonna have to go back to work. And I was just mentally drained and exhausted, and sadly it just manifested into my Hodgkin's lymphoma. And what is so sad about the whole situation is that when I was diagnosed, I remember thinking, thank God I don't have to be around that horrible, evil man anymore. It was like getting cancer was just my way out from that environment, because I didn't know what to do. And I'm a big believer that in the universe sometimes has to stepping in a way that I never wanted cancer, but at the same time I wasn't gonna leave, because I felt stuck. Like, over time, when you stay in these situations, it can ruin your self-esteem and ruin your confidence. And I started to doubt my capabilities, and it's just a horrible position to be in, because not only was I dealing with cancer, but I'm also trying to deal with the mental side of his bullying towards me. And it was so bad that I actually had to have hypnosis for it. So that did put me in a better place. But now I just feel like I'm more open to share my story. And as I said in the beginning, it's so important to get help and speak to someone if you are experiencing workplace bullying. So I'm going to make part 2, and I'm going to talk about what you can do if you are experiencing workplace bullying. In the meantime, please feel free to leave comments below, reach out to me, let me know, are you being bullied at work? Have you been bullied at work? How did it affect you mentally? Did it affect you physically? Like, let me know. I would love to hear your story. And that's all I have to say for now. thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and do subscribe for future content that I will be putting out. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.